our perspective grid is taped to a drafting surface. Now on top of our perspective grid, I've taped a sheet of tracing paper, and I've made sure that I've kept track of my vanishing points on the right hand side and on the left hand side, as we're going to be using these throughout this next drawing process. For this session, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding windows to the side wall and artwork to this back wall. Now, this particular perspective is based off of this floor plan. What we're doing is looking into this back corner of the plan. So we're going to be drawing the items on this wall, and then there's items on this wall we're going to draw as well. And then in a future video, we'll also take care of drawing some of these furniture pieces to show you how that is done. You will also need, aside from a floor plan, an elevation so that you can measure heights. For the purposes of this drawing, we're going to need to know the height of the sill of the window, the top of the window, and then as we start to draw furniture, you'll need to know the heights of the different pieces of furniture as well. Okay, let's go ahead and begin this drawing. Now what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've measured the distance from the back corner to the beginning of this window, and then the length of the window as a whole, and then the distance to the end of the wall. So we're going to go ahead and start by drawing those items. To begin adding items onto the walls, what we're going to have to do is measure from our floor plan the distances. Now, this floor plan is in 1/2-inch scale, so in measuring this out, we see that there's 2.5 feet to the beginning of this window from this corner. So we'll make note of that. And then we have the entire length of this window wall, of the window with the side lights. And the entire length would be 9 feet 6 inches. And then the individual windows are 1 foot. I'm just making some side notes. The larger window in the center on center is 7 feet. Okay, so now we've got a basic set of measurements where we can start creating this window wall. And again, we're going to start at 2.5 feet out, and then what we'll do is we'll go over about 1.25 feet, 7 feet, another 1.25 feet, and then everything will be centered nicely. Now we also need to work with heights. You really can't draw anything in perspective unless you can think about how tall it is. So in this particular case, we have a room that is an 8-foot ceiling height. The base of the windows is at about 2 feet 9 inches from the floor, and then the top of the windows is just below 7 feet, so it is actually at 6 feet 10 inches. Okay. All right, let's begin this process. So what we can do is we use our architect scale to measure from the plan and the elevation. We cannot use an architect scale on this plan except for the true height line. We cannot use our architect scale on this perspective except for the true height line, because that was created in scale. Everything else is based upon the vanishing points, which distorts it into a perspective. So step one, let's go ahead and come out 2.5 feet, which is where this window is located. Now you can just estimate where the 1/2 foot mark is. You don't have to be completely precise. You do have to realize that a perspective like this is a conceptual drawing. It should represent a space. It doesn't have to be a technical drawing like a set of plans. So we've come over 2.5 feet, and from there what we can do is we're going to come up on the wall. The window sill starts, the bottom of the sill starts at 2 feet 9 inches. So we'll come up 1 foot, 2 feet, and there's 3 feet. And 9 inches is about 3/4 foot. So let's just mark that there. All right. So now we have the first corner of our window, and the window goes up to 6 feet 10 inches. So this is an 8-foot tall room. So this would be 7 feet, and 6 feet 10 inches would be just above 3/4 of that mark. So we'll draw this first line. We have the first line of our window, and of course be careful using trace paper because a pencil will dig right through. All right, now the overall length of the window is 9 feet 5 inches. So what we'll do is we will align a straight edge with a vanishing point. And I'm using a clear one for this purpose. I'm using the grid really rather than the vanishing point, mainly so you can see the lines. But let's switch over to a straight edge. You can line it up exactly precisely with the vanishing point. Use the vanishing point as a pivot. And we're going to come out 9 feet 6 inches, so 9.5 feet. So let's go ahead and mark it. There's a half foot there, so that's easy. So then we just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Make sure everything's lined up. Go ahead and draw our line. Okay, let's just verify. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, that was way off. Okay, so there we have our frame for the start of the frame for the entire window. So it's 9 feet 6 inches wide. And then now we don't really need to measure anything else. We're going to use our vanishing point and the top of the side of the window that we drew. We're going to draw a line this way. We know that it stops at this point. So we'll just pull up our triangle. Alright, so there you have the entire framework for the window. Now within this, what we're going to do is we have to create the 2 side lights and then the middle portion of the window. The side lights are about 1 foot wide, so that makes it pretty easy. We'll go ahead and just draw a line. And then this other side, 1 foot, since we're starting at a 6-inch mark, we just come over to another 6-inch mark. Okay. So there are the basics of your window. Now what I want to do is we need to zoom in on this a little bit so that we could see this in more detail. Okay, so now that we're zoomed in, you won't be able to see the vanishing points, but I'll keep using them. Be sure of that. What we're going to do now is we're going to draw the frame around the window, and the frame for this window actually comes inward. So let's go ahead and draw the frame first. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up our straight edge with our vanishing point, and look at your elevation. Make sure you know what you're doing. We're coming in probably about 3 inches or so. Yes, exactly. We're coming down about 3 inches total. So, a couple inches for the top frame and the frame around the edge of the window, and then another 1.5 inches or so for the mullions that are holding the panes in place in the window. Now, what I want to do is along the top and the bottom, we'll draw this as a whole, and then we'll go through and separate it a little bit. Again, I have to estimate. We don't have 1-inch marks on here. We actually could create a 1-inch mark, and let me zoom in a little bit differently for that. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so remember when I said that your true height line is in scale? Well, keep that in mind. Your true height line is in scale. And we actually could take our 1/2-inch scale, put 0 on this line. We're going to come up, and we're up at about 10 inches for the top piece, right? So we're up about 10. So we could come down, let's come down about 2, and then we'll just mark like another 1. Now from this bottom line, we'll do the same thing. Kind of mark where that is. And we'll come in and we'll mark about 2, and then about another 1. Okay, now that is on the true height line, and that's the only line that you can do that with. So if you do have some details you want to work on, that's the way to do it. All right, so let's go ahead and move back out just a little. Okay, so using these marks on the wall, or estimating is just fine. Using my vanishing point as a pivot point, I'm going to go ahead and draw the top part of the frame, or top part of the trim, and then I'm going to draw the part where the window mullion is, and do the same thing on the bottom. Vanishing point as a pivot point, okay. All right, so there's the basics. Now what we're going to do is we're going to draw some vertical lines. Vertical lines we really can't measure in the same way that we measured on the true height line, so we are going to have to estimate. There's the first one, and I'm going to draw this one really tight because my assumption is this trim is overlapping this slightly. Now on this side, what we're going to do is go ahead and draw the inside mullion. And then we'll draw the outside part of the trim. Okay, then we'll go to where the next part of the window is. And then from there, again, we'll draw the trim, same piece we drew here. And then again, I'm assuming that there's a slight overlap of the trim to the mullion, so we're drawing that there. Let me erase a couple small lines here so you get a little better idea of what we're doing. Okay, and now we're going to come over to this side, and again I'm going to work from the edge of the window in just like I did here, and that way it'll help me keep track a little bit of what's going on. So let's draw the trim, the mullion, the next mullion, trim for the picture window, inside of the trim, and again the mullion. All right, so there we have it. There's the basic window for this particular wall. Now, what we're going to do is we'll, as we refine this, we'll put another sheet of trace on top, and then we will refine it further. We'll put another sheet of tracing paper on top, or a sheet of drafting vellum or marker paper, depending on how you're going to do your final rendering, and then we'll put more detail onto this. Let me clean this up a little bit. I have an erasing shield here, and if you're wondering, this little piece of tape is a handle. So I can put my erasing shield down and then use the handle, and then let me just use a little eraser. Let me see exactly what I'm erasing. Okay, so there we get a little clearer view of the window. For this next part, what we're going to do is place two pieces of art on this wall. The art pieces are 4x4, and basically they're meant to mirror the window and side lights over on this wall for a general shape. We do know that the base of the art is going to be at 2 feet 10 inches from the wall, which is similar in height to where the window frame is, and the top will be at 6 feet 10 inches, which again will mirror the height of the window framing. So first thing we need to do is know where the art is placed on the wall. In this instance, it's placed dead center of the wall. So first step, we find the center of the room. We could do two things. One, we could just simply count off the blocks. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a half. Okay, the room is 15 feet wide, so 7.5 would be the center of our room. Another way to do this, which is an old graphic way of doing it, very easy, old artist trick, is, let me zoom out just a little bit. Okay, draw a line from corner of room to corner of room. Again, this works on any rectilinear object in perspective. And when you do that, you can find the center of the room. Okay? All right, so now that we have our center, and I'm going to go with the grid center because I think it's a little more accurate. I got a little bit off on that one. So with the center of the room found, what we're going to do is we're going to come 3 inches off center on either side. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go up 2 feet 10 inches on our true height line. And again, because the true height line is true to height, hence the name, you actually can measure it. So what we can do is measure up 2 feet and mark 10 inches, which we had already done as part of our drawing of the windows. And then also we might as well, while we're here, go ahead and mark 6 feet 10 inches. There's 6 feet. And again, we already had this marked as it's the top of our window frame. So now what we'll do is we will take our straight edge, we will align it with our vanishing point on the left-hand side, and I will just draw a guideline across the bottom. Come up, draw a guideline across the top. All right, so now we know that this will be one edge of a piece of art. And then let's go ahead and draw this entire piece of art. It's 4 feet wide, so we're at about 3 inches here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then this is the other edge for the other piece of art. And again, we'll come over 4 feet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now again, you probably want to use your vanishing point. I'm just using a clear edge, and I'm also using the grid so I can actually see where the lines should go. So I'm just darkening them. All right, so there's the basic idea for setting up a piece of art. Now what you want to do is, if this is an art that's framed, similar to you did here, if this is a piece of art that's framed, we would do similar to what we did here. Let's draw this one with a frame around it. Let's say that the frame comes in a couple of inches. All the way around. On this side, we'd be seeing into this side, so let's give that side a little more depth. This side we would not be seeing into, but we would see into the outside. Just go ahead and give a double line there. And then let me just zoom in on this a little bit. And then you could see the framework that's been created, and you can create your artwork inside. Or if you're doing some sort of decorative frame, you obviously have a piece of decorative frame material or image or something available for you to look at, and then go in and give this some little decorative pieces, like whatever it is that you're working with. Okay, now let's just assume that this other piece is maybe just a piece of canvas. Oops. Now what we'll do with this other piece is pretty much, if it's a piece of canvas that's stretched over a frame, all you will see is the front of the piece of art, and you'll see a little bit on the side. So we can just go right in here, just throw in a double line, and then from the bottom corner, use our vanishing point, go up to the vanishing point, and from the top corner, come down a little bit to the vanishing point, and there you have a couple pieces of art on the wall and your windows with side lights. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a soffit around the edge of the room, and then we're going to raise the interior part of the ceiling up about a foot. Now to do this, we're going to again need a piece of tracing paper on top of our grid, and I'm just using a piece that we've already been using for drawing windows and drawing artwork on the walls, because working on the ceiling doesn't have any effect on these, and we can tie these all together in a final piece later when we start layering our drawings, when we start layering the pieces of trace one on top of another, which will include the architectural features and interior features and then the furnishings as well. Alright, so to create this soffit, I am not going to need to measure anything. I have my measurements from the plan, and I know that there's a 2-foot soffit all the way around the ceiling, and I know that it extends upward 1 foot. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to plot it onto the ceiling using our grid. And it's going to be pretty simple here. We'll start over here where we could see fairly well. We come over 2 feet from the edge of the wall, and then we come out 2 feet. We make a mark. Pretty easy. Then we come out to the corner of our room, and we make a mark at 2 feet by 2 feet. Then we come back to this wall, and we make another mark. Okay, and that's actually pretty good amount of marks. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and connect these 2 dots, or these 2 marks, and we're just using our vanishing point as a pivot point and using a straight edge. And then we're going to the other side. I'm going to use a clear straight edge for this size because it actually does reach my vanishing point. Okay, now the next part is we're going to again use our marks that we've already created, and we're going to use our vanishing points, and I have to switch to a longer rule so I can actually reach the vanishing point. Draw this line in. Okay, and then using the opposite vanishing point, okay, and there you have, I went a little over there, but there you have your basic soffit. All right, now to make the soffit go up 1 foot, keep in mind, what do we have on a 2-point perspective grid that's in scale? And that would be your true height line. So our true height line is in 1/2 inch scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our true height line, and we're at 8 feet here. We're just going to go up a foot. So I'm going to measure up 1 foot, and I'm going to make a mark, and this mark is right on my true height line. All right, so this next step, since remember we've already got our soffit ready to go here, and the soffit is 2 feet from this corner in perspective. I know it doesn't look like that, but perspective does get slightly distorted in the distance, especially on a flatter plane like a ceiling when you're so close to it. Okay, so the steps are this. What we're going to be doing is we're going to come over 2 feet on our grid, and we're going to draw a line vertically. And 2 feet because we know that the soffit is 2 feet wide. And then we're going to use our vanishing point, and we're going to draw a line from this 9-foot mark, which is the 1 foot rise for our raised ceiling within the soffit. We're going to bring that over to where this 2-foot mark crosses. Okay? Now, not done. We're going to do the same thing on this wall. We're going to go up, we're going to go to the 2-foot mark, we're going to draw a line vertically, we're going to use our straight edge, our vanishing point, draw another line. Alright, now, if you haven't figured it out, here's what we're going to do. We have 2 feet over, 2 feet over, 1 foot up. What we're going to do now is we're going to look for the intersection of these 2 points using our vanishing point. So we're using the right hand vanishing point. I'm just going to sketch a line because I don't know how far it's supposed to go. Then using the left hand vanishing point, I actually can plot it. Alright. There is our ceiling height raised at 1 foot. It is 2 foot out, 2 foot out, and then out in perspective. Now what we do is this. We use that mark as a guide. And we line it up with the inside of our soffit. And then what we're going to do is, again, using our straight edge, draw a line out that way, and then a line to the left. And now let me go ahead and erase some of these background lines for you, some of the guidelines. And let me go ahead and draw the top of the wall line. And we could really see our soffit. Apologize for that zipper sound. There we go, nice and smooth. Okay, and now you have a ceiling with a 2 foot by 2 foot soffit raised with a 1 foot raised area inside of it. On this soffit, there are things you can do while you still have your grid placed, even though the grid, some things you can do on this soffit is you can add light fixtures. This is the actual ceiling grid that you're seeing, at least within this 2 foot area. Now notice how this is 1 foot on the true height line. This is 1 foot, which looks quite a bit larger, coming towards us in perspective. Keep in mind that this is coming towards you. This is 2 feet closer to you than this back corner. Well, actually not quite 2 feet because it's coming out at an angle. Okay, notice how this is 1 foot on your true height line, and notice how this 1 foot representation is a bit larger. Keep in mind that this is coming towards you in perspective, so as it's coming towards you, it's progressing in size, and then everything that's receding in the distance is becoming smaller in perspective. All right, now some things you can do with this soffit, since this is your actual ceiling grid. I have a line to clean up, excuse me. There you go. Okay. Now, one thing I want you to notice is this is a 1 foot mark on your true height line. So that is 1/2 inch scale. It's measured in scale. Notice how this 1 foot area seems larger. Keep in mind that it's coming towards you in perspective, and everything that's coming forward from your true height line is going to be larger as it becomes a little more distorted in perspective, and everything going away from the true height line will become a little bit smaller. All right, now some things you can do with the soffit. Since this is your actual ceiling grid, if you have any light fixtures, you certainly can add those. Something I want to show you briefly with a light fixture, I'm just going to freehand draw it. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit closer. All right, let me work in this area right here. Let's say that I have a light fixture that's located in this area. What I want to do is with anything you draw in perspective, you kind of want to find it first. So depending on how wide it is, let's say it's a 6-inch light fixture. We'll go 3 inches from the middle, and then we'll come this way about 3 inches. We just kind of have to eyeball it, say if that's half, and you know that's 3 inches. So this would be 6 inches across, right? Now we want to do the same thing going back in perspective. Okay, so if this is 6 inches on this grid, this would be 3 inches. If this is 6 inches on that grid, this is 3 inches. Now that we have these 4 points, what you can do is you can fit a circle. So say this is a ceiling can, or say this is a recessed ceiling fixture. Basically what you do is you would just now connect those dots. Okay, and you could do that anywhere and with any size item, ceiling fans, chandeliers, whatever it is that you're working with on a drawing. Okay, to create this perspective, we're going to be working in layers. we have a layer that we've already begun, which includes windows, some artwork, and a recessed ceiling with a soffit and a little bit of light fixtures. We're going to be removing this sheet of paper and putting another sheet of trace onto the grid. So we have our grid underneath, and we're going to be pasting another sheet of trace on top, and we'll draw the furniture on that sheet, and then we'll layer the pieces to create a final drawing. All right? Now, before you remove a sheet from the grid, very important, mark your horizon line. Mark your vanishing points on the left and on the right. Mark your vanishing points on the right and on the left. And then make sure you draw in your ceiling, which we've already done, and the floor. And these will all be used as a way to ensure that all the sheets are aligned properly when you place them together. Another good thing to draw might be your true height line. I don't want to give you too many points to look at as you place a sheet, but just a few points would be very helpful to you.